guys. Everybody in the room? Can I hear? Okay, so everyone is muted. Don't be alarmed that you're muted. I will unmute you one by one. We're just figuring this out. Hey everyone, I'm Bobby. We have Duke, aka Andrew, is also in the room. He's our producer. And so we're kind of doing a different camera setup today. So in case you haven't noticed, it should be clearer. Can you guys hear me okay? Can you give a thumbs up if you can hear me? I feel like we're about to go on a Disneyland ride. Yay! All right, Duke, we're good? Okay, cool. Well, welcome everyone to Office Hours. To everyone watching at home, you're watching on the Hundreds TV, tv.thehundreds.com. This is the first time we're trying this sort of a setup. We're shooting through an actual Mark II instead of just through my computer Zoom. As you know, we've been running the Hundreds TV all pandemic long. It's our way of connecting with you and for our community to connect with each other. Throughout the week, we have regularly scheduled programming. On Mondays, we have this show. It's called Office Hours, and it's really a moment for me to just address things that I'm thinking about, topical issues, obviously a lot going on in current events and just the climate, social climate, and then just talk about business in general. And so fielding questions from our audience and from our followers. And so last week we started something new in the sense that I invited a few guests to actually join live to make it as close to a virtual office hours as possible. If you went to college or even in your high schools and you know what it's like to stay after school, to talk to your professor or teacher just to get a little bit of advice, maybe even just a little sense of a counseling session. I wanted to be able to provide that for our community. So Office Hours is just an open forum for me to talk, for you to talk, for you to be able to ask your questions. If you're watching live from home right now on the Hundreds TV, tv.thehundreds.com, there is a section on the side where you can type in your questions. I'll get to some of those, but also, once again, I've invited a few friends and guests from the community to join us today and to ask their questions in person. So every Monday, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We were a little late today because we were trying to set up all this new technology that we have. Big shout out to Beth and to Andrew and to Justin on my production team for figuring this all out, the tech wizards. But yeah, let's get started. I'm going to just begin by talking about, if you don't already know, the paperback version of my book, This Is Not a T-Shirt, is now available. It's been out for almost a week now. The hardcover officially released about a year ago. And in that time, I've learned a lot since. A lot of the things that I talk about in this book, I had more concrete examples of as I was touring throughout the year. And I wrote about that in this new version of the book. There's a new forward where I address how the Hundreds community has really proven to be the backbone of this brand and the reason why we share so much success. And so I give some illustrations of how that came to be. And then I talk about just streetwear in general and where we're at with streetwear and the industry as a culture. But this book is available now, so it's really the only thing I have to promote this week. We're coming off of a really good sale that we had over the weekend. If any of you were able to participate in it, that unfortunately just ended this morning. But yeah, go out there and buy the book. So we can always talk about the book. If you have questions, you can drop it in the chat if you're watching on the Hundreds TV right now. And don't forget, you can always shop as you're watching. The Hundreds TV all week long. Again, this show is Office Hours. Tomorrow we have a really good show. It's called Greatest Hits. We take you through a lot of vintage of the Hundreds product. It is your chance to also buy it. One-off pieces, stuff that we've sourced from over the years from our archives. Our host, Justin, is a wizard when it comes to all this stuff. And he has a special guest on tomorrow. I believe he has on John, Ben's brother, John Hundreds, and he has a lot of stories to tell. So that's always fun to tap in. But yeah, throughout the week, we have different shows. So constantly check in. And even if we're not live, we have other types of scheduled programming. I want to get to your questions. So let's just open it up right here. Who has the first question in this actual room?
All right, so Daniel's actually in here, and he was on last week for office hours.
That's right.
Kind enough to sacrifice his spot in line, so we could cut it at 2 hours because that was a long show. So Daniel's up first. Let me just unmute Daniel. What do you got for Bobby, Daniel?
Oh, he's still muted on my side, from what I can tell. There you go, Daniel. Yeah. So Daniel, real quick, thanks for being patient. As we were saying, last week was the first time that we allowed guests into the room. And I didn't know where to draw the line. So I kind of just like filled up the room. And then I figured out, of course, everybody's going to want to ask a question. And we ran like 2 hours. That episode is actually still archived in the Hundreds TV. If you go to tv.thehundreds.com, you can watch the whole thing. But Daniel was super generous. He waited the entire time, and just because he could tell everyone else was exhausted. I don't think it was for my benefit. It's probably for Daniel's benefit. He's just like, I gotta go. I gotta eat dinner. Gotta get out of here. But he gave up his spot. So Daniel, you get to go first.
Yeah, thank you. No, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I actually got kicked out of work because the time right now they're like, you need to leave. We need to put the alarm on. And then I get home and I sat in the driveway for about 45 minutes. And my wife,
God,
dinner's getting cold. Where are you? I'm like, I'm actually in the driveway. Everything's fine. But yeah, so the first I wanted to say thank you. I have both of them.
Yeah.
I love it.
I
love it.
Nice.
Yeah, I had a coworker actually buy one and he read the first chapter and he sent me a message. He's like, I don't even need to read the rest of it. He's like, my perspective on life has changed already. Like it was like that thought-provoking form already.
That's awesome. Thanks, Daniel.
My question was, I appreciate this shirt right here.
Yeah.
Everywhere I go, people are wearing masks and you can't really see what people are feeling. And there's just that weird sense of insecurity of what's happening, what's going on. And every worker that I've ran into at a register looks at my shirt and just takes a deep breath and is like, I feel that way. And it just became like my shirt to go out and wear because that's like, it's almost like hey, we're all in this together. How do you feel without having to feel pressure to
yeah.
But so my question was, in terms of this and the collaboration with Pharrell and doing the Black Lives Matter, do you see any other group or any other event or situation where you guys want to do some kind of fundraising to raise funds for another?
There's always different causes, and there's always people who are in dire need of assistance. And look, like the issues surrounding Black Lives Matter are nothing new, as we all know. It all kind of came to a head with the murder of George Floyd. And so we didn't foresee, I don't think anyone really foresaw the swell around that movement. And so, look, I'm saying this because for the most part, most of us can't predict what will be the next thing where we'll have to divert a lot of that energy. And it used to be that as far as charitable efforts were concerned, there would be like a few a year. It would be like a hurricane thing or some type of natural disaster relief. But we're realizing that humankind are the natural disasters. It appears that we are the worst things to ever have happened to each other. And so there are more and more of these situations now where we're finding ourselves in of how do we help people, especially when they're being hurt by other people. So just to touch on that shirt real quick for those people who don't know and who are watching today, Daniel, if you don't mind, do you mind standing up actually and showing the full thing? So this was a collaboration we did with Liz Beecroft. Liz Beecroft is a mental health advocate from New York, from Philadelphia. I met her actually in Philadelphia. She came to my signing, book signing, but she wanted to do a project together where we raised a bunch of money for mental health advocacy, and NAMI, which is National Alliance for Mental Illness, I believe is the abbreviation. So I wanted to riff off of those old school therapist office type of posters. So I would see these in classrooms, and it was just help people identify their feelings and their emotions at any given point. And I think that's so important, especially for young men. I'm very much aware that I have an audience that is comprised mainly of young dudes. I mean, even just look at this room today. And if we can facilitate identifying a lot of our emotional states, I think we would all just be in a much better place, just to first of all, acknowledge that these are all very real feelings. I grew up from a generation where, I have immigrant parents, and they were like, you were supposed to be stoic, and especially as a man, like you weren't supposed to express yourself, and especially if you were sad and scared, you're just supposed to be very stoic, statue-esque, and I really love this idea of this next generation of thinking around a lot of mental health, saying like, first we need to address how you're feeling, how you really identify right now, and then we can work around that. And so that shirt blew out in just a matter of minutes. So Daniel, you're really lucky to have that shirt, because I was shocked how fast it sold out.
Yeah, and I'm losing weight, and it's already starting to get bigger on me, and I'm like, oh man, I think I'm gonna have to try to shrink it.
What are you doing to lose weight right now, or is it just the stress of the pandemic?
No, my wife, she's working at home. I just got back to the office, so when I get back, she's working out, and she's like, okay, no donuts and no Call of Duty. You need to start working out.
Yeah. Speaking of Call of Duty, have you tuned into Night Terrors on Wednesday nights?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, sometimes these guys are playing Call of Duty. I started getting into it. I'm really not like a total gamer, but my kids are super into it. Obviously, the guys and girls I get to work with every day are very much into gaming and Call of Duty. And so I started getting in, and then I got 2 in, where it was kind of, you know what it's like. It was just taking over my whole life. And I was like, I have things to do. It's starting to eat into my entire evening. And after a while, I was just like, I gotta wean myself off of it. So it's very addicting, very addicting.
Yeah.
But anyways, to answer your question, look, like there's always something else coming up. Right now, my heart and my eyes are set on, I've been talking with my friend Amanda Nguyen, she's a really great activist, very accomplished. She passed a bunch of laws last year, actually, through Congress. But she and I have been talking a lot about how our greatest concern through all of this, through the pandemic, is with domestic abuse victims. And I think, look, I grew up in a home where there was domestic violence, and if I were growing up right now in this pandemic, it would pretty much be hell for me, because school and my social life and going on skating, going snowboarding, going to punk shows with my friends was my only escape. And not being able to have that right now, look, all the reports of domestic abuse are down because people aren't able to report them. They're not able to reach out to anybody. And so I think in the future, you're going to see some more of that issue being addressed in the work. I'm trying to figure out in terms of like how to connect charity wise with projects that we're working on, but that is something we are beginning discussions with, and this is kind of far out, with one of my favorite people in the world, a guy named Kevin Smith. And Kevin is also very much like, look, if we're doing this, we have to have a charitable component. And so I don't think it's unique to the hundreds or streetwear or just fashion. I think the future of how a lot of people are going to be working and moving about in this world and in industry and in marketing is in connecting to some type of giving back. And it's just going to be worked into the system. And it's a beautiful thing, to be honest. I foresee like a lot better wealth redistribution in that sense. I think companies will be forced, whether they like to or not, whether they're shamed into it or not, they are going to be forced into having to give up and to contribute and to benefit communities who need it more than a gigantic corporation needs at any given moment. So anyways, it's a good question, Daniel. I appreciate it. And really cool jerseys in the background.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And again, thanks for being patient.
No, thank you. Thanks, Frank.
Yeah. Next question.
Do you guys, I don't see it on mine, but I know there's a way to raise your hands on Zoom. That's how I'm going to figure out who asked first. If you guys have questions, please hit the raise hand function. And
if you don't, and look, if you guys don't have questions, I say guys because it really appears to be only dudes in the room. I could be wrong. Forgive me if I am. But if you don't have questions, that's okay too. I have a bunch of questions coming in online. Yeah, but Mark Hov says he doesn't see the icon, but I guess I'm assuming you want to ask a question, Mark? Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna
call him Mark.
And you.
Should be good, Mark.
Hey, how you doing?
What up, man?
I just have pretty much 2 questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I know you made a lot of collaborations. Who is the one person that has been actually eluding you, or you feel like you want to make a collaboration with?
Yeah. Okay. That's your first question. Okay. There are plenty. You would think that after 17 years of doing this, that we would have hit all of the bucket lists by this point, but it's very much not true. Just the fact I just name dropped Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith is someone that I've been wanting to work with since 10 years before I started the hundreds. Like when I was like 15 years old, I would watch Kevin Smith movies, and they were my favorite movies. Jason Lee was my favorite actor of that era. And I was always like, I want to work with this guy one day. And we are 17 years into the brand, and we brought it up, I think, in like year 5, year 6, around year 10, it came up again. We've broached it many times, and now it seems like it's actually happening. And so I guess that's just a testament to, if you have your own dreams, Mark, or anyone else in the room, or anyone else watching, it takes time, a lot of this stuff. And so to Mark's point, my bucket list is still very much unanswered in the large part. I would love to work with Nike one day. Like, I think that's not anything shocking. I don't know how it would have to come about. It's very political, as most people in the industry know. It might have to come with just a shakeup of who's involved and who's in and out. And look, there are a contingent of people and gatekeepers still at Nike who understand one version of the hundreds that isn't necessarily who the hundreds is at 17 years. And so as our company changes, and as that company changes, stars align differently. And we're just always open for any opportunity. So I would love to see that happen one day. I think that's something that I'm not ashamed to admit or put out there. I'm trying to think. My bucket list items are sometimes kind of not exactly the ones that, as far as collabs go, that people would expect. Like they're like, oh, like Nike, right? I'm like, yes, Nike. But then also like, like an author or like an artist, like Ben and I, we have these artists that we love, and we would love to work with their estates or with them as people, like LA artists like Roche or Cy Twombly, who is also like a great modern artist, and Cy Twombly's estate. So there's different artists that we're always looking at that aren't necessarily the noisiest collaborations for our demographics, but in terms of our story, in terms of our portfolio, in terms of the things that we believe align best with what we want for the future of this company. There's a lot of things. So I could rattle off a bunch of stuff. There's a bunch of anime projects. Miyazaki is still one that we've been working on for years, and it's very complicated. But look, there's a lot. Who would you like to see us work with?
I was thinking Nike, obviously, but
if we did a Nike shoe, which would you want us to do?
Ooh, that would be. I think the Air Stab has always been one of my favorite.
Whoa, yeah.
My favorite Air Maxes that hasn't really had any light. I mean, I've only had one pair, and it's the Foot Patrol Air Stab. Yep. So definitely something that's not typically out as a collab shoe, you know?
Yeah, that is a great shoe. It's just a great looking shoe, and there's so many different panels and that you can. There's a lot of fun that you can have with it creatively. I don't know why I just thought of tech challenges. Well, tech challenges are. I don't want to speak for Ben, but pretty much Ben's favorite shoe. I think he has every AirTech challenge. Those are the Agassiz for people watching. I think he has even like the rarest ones, he has them. And so that would be really cool just for our story to be able to access that. I love, look, what Nike's doing right now is still just above and beyond just some of the best stuff, you know, and the space hippie stuff to me is really interesting. And so I'm watching a lot of that closely. What was your second question?
How do you feel about the new Governor Newsome closing everything back down again? Pretty much.
So I just, I've been so busy today, and I just looked at my messages, and everyone is telling me like, he's shutting it for the most part, right? It's kind of going back to how it was. I'm just gonna follow the leader with that one. If that's what has to happen, that's what has to happen. I've had some pretty. I know too many people who've gotten this disease, and I'm very concerned about it. If you want to know what side of the line, if there's a line I stand on, I believe it's very real. I believe we need to wear masks. I believe masks are effective. Try to quarantine as much as possible. Try to be mindful of your brothers and sisters out there and your neighbors. And so if it means that we have to shut everything down again to protect lives and to protect the future of the economy, not the economy currently, but in order for there to be some semblance of an economy after all this dies down, then like, by all means, let's do it. I think these people, like Newsome, a lot of the leaders that we have in place are much better researched, much better suited, much better equipped to know what's best for me, as opposed to me just reading something on the internet. And so a lot of us are armchair experts now with coronavirus and COVID, and because we are reading all this information and listening to every podcast and watching the news, we think we know what's best, but it's not my job to do. My job is to design clothes. And so I think it's the same as it's been since the beginning of this, which is try to keep it safe, man. Just wear the mask. Just, try not to come in contact with too many people if you don't have to. And protect yourselves and protect others.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a real thing. My wife and I work in the medical field, so
thanks for doing that. Thanks for
wear your masks.
Yeah.
Wear your mask.
a little personal, but my sister-in-law has been positive. Both my brother's families have gotten it now. But she suffered a seizure out of nowhere, and they're on Thursday, and no other symptoms. And so this is something, and she went into the hospital, to the ER, and then they tested her positive for COVID. And so those reports about brain damage and a lot of brain functionality issues that are coming around because of COVID, I'm watching that happen firsthand. Mark, real quick, have you watched a show on Netflix called Lenox Hill?
It's on my list, but I saw clips of like the last episode, so
yeah,
which is about, I think, COVID. So
yeah, COVID. It's a docuseries. It's a 9-episode docuseries about Lenox Hill in New York, which is a hospital, and they follow 4 different doctors, 4 different backgrounds as they work. And every episode, you meet a few different patients. Some people are coming in because they have brain tumors. Some people are coming in for some more like nominal issues. And it's so fascinating. I've been selling, when I find a show that I love, I proselytize it to everybody. I want to share it with everyone. Nobody has taken me up on it. Like literally not a single person will listen to me. So now I'm telling the Hundreds TV audience, please watch the show, because it will give you such an appreciation and respect for healthcare workers in a way where my dad was a physician and I still didn't really appreciate what he did every day. And now I watch the show, and then I'm talking to you, Mark, and I'm like, thank God that people like you exist, because I can never do your job. You're all angels. You know, we all owe you
Thank
our
you.
lives, and you're always putting yourselves on a line for other people. You don't get celebrated. You know, like people know my name because I design t-shirts. Like, really, who cares? And then people like you out there who are actually saving people's lives and changing them for the better every day. And nobody actually gives you the respect and recognition it's due. So I'm going to give you the time right now and say thanks. And I appreciate your service and work.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Thanks, Mark. I'm going to move on to the next question.
All right.
Thanks, Mark. We're going to Austin.
Perfect.
Austin, give me 1 second. Just real quick, everyone, if you're just tuning in, you are watching Office Hours. I'm here every Monday, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Sometimes I invite people into the room with me, but for everyone else, you can watch. And it's always archived after on tv.thehundreds.com. And Office Hours is a space for me inside my office, within my greater office here in LA, to just take your questions about anything in general, just like Austin's about to do. Austin, where are you from?
I'm originally from Ohio, but I'm based in Chicago now.
Okay, cool. And how are you doing with everything going on?
I'm doing all right, man. I've been working from home for like the last, 4 months now.
Okay.
And pretty much they gave us the extension to be working from home full time. So looks like this is my normal life.
Yeah. If you don't mind my asking, what do you do?
I'm a program manager at Upwork. I don't know if
Okay.
you've heard of it, but
I haven't heard of it. What is it?
it's a essentially it's a platform where you can hire freelancers and like whether it's all staff or it's for like special skill sets, stuff like that.
Okay.
So, program manager over there. So things have definitely picked up since we work on remote work. So I've been definitely a little more stressed than normal, but it's all good.
Nice.
Yeah. And first I do want to say sorry to hear about your family with COVID. Hope they have a speedy recovery.
Thank you.
Definitely sad to hear. And I do want to say definitely got to.
Yeah. Thanks, Austin.
Popped it around the beginning of quarantine and haven't gotten through it yet, but it's been great so far.
Cool. Thank you.
I did have 2 questions for you.
Sure.
And me, myself, I do have a brand that I've been working on for like 6-7 years now. It's definitely gone through the stages of just like an idea to a t-shirt or two to now last year did like a couple hoodies and a couple t-shirts.
Yeah.
But I want to get your opinion in terms of, as things have evolved and I've evolved and gotten older, I've been thinking more and more about like rebranding, changing the style and even potentially the name of the brand. Obviously built not a huge community, but definitely a few hundred followers, on social media and things of that nature. So I kind of want to get your opinion on how you see rebranding in terms of like, in the life of the brand.
Yeah. Austin, why do you want to rebrand?
I think when I originally created, the logo and just like the overall feel of the brand, I was 17, 18, and I'm 25 now. I'm a little bit older, a little bit different style on the day to day.
Yeah.
So I just feel like I want to evolve the brand with me as I continue to run. So that's just, but I've been fighting just, wanting to stick with the original and staying, true to where I was.
Yeah. I remember when we started our brand with the Hundreds, and so this actually comes up a lot when people ask about intellectual property issues in terms of trademarking their brand. That seems to be a common question. People come to me and they say, hey, should I trademark and protect my brand right away? And I'm always just like, hold on, because you're very early in your courtship. Like you're basically like just kind of dating the girl or the guy right now. Like, let's not put a ring on the finger yet. We kind of want to get to know each other first to see if this is right. And, it takes time. A year from now, you may change your partners. You may be disinterested in doing this at all. A lot of people get a year into running a brand. They're like, I'm not into this. I'm going to go make money somewhere else. And so I always tell people, like, just hold on, because you are going to probably want to change your name. So don't be too married to it yet. And I remember when we were first starting the brand, and we went to our intellectual property lawyer and sat down with Trademarks, and he was just like, I'm going to tell you what happens with all of you artists, especially the creative ones. You are going to lock down a name, you're going to lock down a trademark and a logo, you're going to pay all this money in order to secure global trademark rights. And immediately you're going to want to change the mark. And once you finish the book, you'll read, there's a chapter in there about Atom Bomb. And Atom Bomb, our icon and mascot, as if you don't know, it's a cartoon bomb to everyone who's watching. But I grew very sick and tired of that character. And to this day, I have this very embattled relationship with him where I understand and I appreciate the power and the strength that he carries with my customer. There's a bunch of atom bombs right there. But then also like, I'm also sick and tired of him a lot of the time as well. And so artists are like that. We're very finicky. We get over things very quickly. We're always not totally satisfied with our work, and especially entrepreneurs and brands, it's never exactly perfect. And so we're kind of in some ways like embarrassed or ashamed of old stuff because we're just like, that wasn't me at my best, but like, check this out. And so we're constantly evolving. It's hard for us to commit to something that we did in the beginning stages. Like you were when you were a teenager, Austin, you started this brand and you didn't know that, in your mid-20s, you would still be held to a lot of those ideas and designs that you made when you were a kid. And so look, like I empathize with it. There is no right answer. I will say you are still relatively young enough in your brand, like a few hundred followers is nothing to, to diminish. Like that's a lot of people still following you and still committed to your brand. So I'm not here to say like, oh, your brand isn't developed yet. Like to me, it sounds like it's pretty getting developed and flourishing already. But you are still always at a point in your life where you are very young. Like I'm 40 years old, I'm 15 years older than you. So you can start right now. And, we didn't start the hundreds till we were 23. And so you can reinvent yourself right now and have built like with everything that you've learned up until now, put it forward into this new rebrand, this new brand, a new direction, and spend the next 15 years just getting to the point where I'm at now and having this really like different idea. So if it were me, I would tell you to, go ahead and rebrand it. You're still young. Like if you're like 50 years old and you'd been doing this for 30 years and you're like, I'm going to rebrand, I'd be like, let's work with what you got. But I think you're young enough to where like you can pivot.
Definitely. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Second question for you.
Yes, sir.
So, along with that, like I said, I mentioned that I am a program manager. I've kind of been in the corporate world for about 4 years now. And along with that, that's taken me into a different path, a little bit away from the creative side of things to more like the business mindset around growing the brand and really trying to develop a long-lasting business.
Yep.
So a part of that, though, when I originally created the brand, and one of the things I really wanted to continue to do was keep everything in-house and try to develop the product in-house. Last year, when we did our first drop of last year, in my one-bedroom apartment, I realized that I had like, my inventory stuffed. I'm like packaging everything.
Yeah.
We're doing the photo shoots in here. We do the product shots in here. Things of that nature, and a lot of it can get overwhelming. You can't really focus so much on the marketing aspect of it. So kind of my question here is, I'm debating on outsourcing versus continuing to learn and develop my skill set across the board. I do realize that the more you know how to do, the better the cost and things like that.
Yeah.
Can help out. At the same time, I can be wasting time.
Yeah.
Focusing on all the pieces of a drop or a
product. Austin, that's a really astute observation. You're more sophisticated than I think you realize as far as this world goes. To be your age and to understand a lot of that is actually pretty smart and advanced. So already you're kind of ahead of the pack. So yeah, that is a question that a lot of entrepreneurs and business people don't even really realize so much later of, should I do it all myself, or at what point do I start delegating, and at what point do I start hiring people to take on a lot of this stuff? Is it more valuable? Is my time more valuable to be focused on things that I'm really good at and let someone else do things that are either labor intensive, time consuming, or it's just not really in my wheelhouse? And, when we started the company, it took me a very long time to hire an assistant designer. I wanted to do everything myself. I wanted to, I drew every single t-shirt. I was going and picking the Pantones. I was in a screen print shop. I was mixing the paints, color coding everything myself, and like literally head to toe building the website. Learning HTML code to, work on the shop. So all this, right? And I'm glad I did all that. Ben did the same thing. Ben, on his operational side of the business, Ben is my business partner, and he was the one that was taping the boxes and shipping out orders and literally chasing down stores for our money. The guy on the phone, and answering every customer service email. And in the beginning stages of your brand, your company or project, whatever it is, it's always good to do that. Number one, it gives you, again, a deeper appreciation and respect for the work. And so when you start hiring people for those positions, that job because you've done it. And so you can empathize better with the employees that you have. You don't ever want to find yourself in a position in the company that you build where you don't have an empathy for whatever the person who's going through the work is dealing with, because that would just breed resentment. That would breed a lot of miscommunication. Ben and I have done pretty much every job here in the company. And so that sets a really solid foundation in order for you to build on top of that. So to answer your question, there comes a point where you will realize it makes more sense economically, financially, makes more sense for your time and for your quality of life to actually outsource. Our generation, when we were starting up, Ben and I, the philosophy was to just hire and build your own team, your own company, and build everything in-house. So we did that even with our sales guys. We never used a sales agency. We used our own sales guys. We hire them, we put them on the road. The thinking has largely shifted in the last 5 to 10 years. And now it's more about outsourcing. There's a lot of really accomplished and great agencies out there who can do the work. They don't necessarily work in-house, but they will build out your web stuff. You can hire an agency to design. You can hire an agency to do sales. Ben and I, we still don't really like to operate like that, because for us, work is so much of a communal experience where there's a real culture involved in the team and working here. And that's just my mode of how I like to work with people. Like, I like to feel like they're my teammate, my brothers and my sisters that are alongside with me. If I'm hiring an agency, there's this there's this misconnection that I can't really explain. It's an X factor that I feel in the end translates to the work, and it doesn't make it feel as cohesive. And so because Ben and I are such control freaks with this brand and in everything that we do, we have to have our fingerprint on. We have to know the person. We have to know the person who's working on it, and everything about that person. Everything has to make sense together. It's hard for us to outsource, but it can be more expensive to hire your own staff. It can really eat up a lot of time, because now I'm more of a manager and an administrator than someone who's just like here to write and design all day. And so I've heard it both ways. We've done it where we don't really outsource a lot to agencies. Of course, some things we do outsource, but for the most part, we keep things in-house. I know some people who have eliminated almost all their overhead. It's just them, and then they hire everything to outside agencies, and they keep everything very lean, and it's all profit. So it's up to you, Austin. I don't really have an answer to tell you exactly. I'd have to sit down with you for like a year to understand your personality and everything, but those are my thoughts on it.
Okay, no, I appreciate it. I love hearing your thought process behind it. So yeah, it gives me a little bit of insight, so I can move forward with that. But yeah,
cool. Thanks, Austin.
Higher Soul, just to throw it out there.
I love it.
This is one of the t-shirts I threw out there, but yeah, man, it was great. I appreciate you doing this and allowing us to really ask this question.
Thank you. To everyone else in the room, also Danielle and Mark and Austin, since you've asked questions already, you're more than welcome to leave. Like I try not to hold anybody hostage here, but in the chat, I would, please try to communicate and correspond, connect with each other. Drop your Instagrams in there, tell people to check out your brands. If you have a brand, if you need help, ask for help, please, within the room. And hopefully we build some relationships and friendships in this room as well. All right, who's next?
Hi.
Raymond's up next.
Right here.
Raymond.
Hey, what's up?
How are you? Is it Raymond or Ray?
Raymond. Yeah.
Okay. What's up, Raymond?
Better than I deserve, you know, so feeling great, feeling grateful.
Where are you? You have like a dedicated testimonial booth. There used to be a show on MTV called The Real World, and in The Real World, they would have a testimonial room. Oh my God, what is this? Can I work where you work?
Yeah, I just built this little office studio space like the last week or so, and I saw your tweet and I was like, well, looks like I'm gonna be here for this part. So this is the perfect room to be here.
Great. Where are you based?
So I'm based in Los Angeles. I just moved here at the end of last year from New York. So it's nice. Kind of a new experience, but you know, it's a different experience than I thought it would be coming into COVID this year. But it's cool, you know. Yeah.
So what's up, Raymond? You got a question?
Yeah, it's a two-part question. So when my first ever experience of camping was actually through the hundreds, and I like went. It was like a Black Friday like event, like in 2009, and like it was your SF store, and like we went there and got like it was like such a simple concept with like your shirt. It was like a black on black shirt. And I was like, I thought that was so dope because one, like it was San Francisco. So, you know, it was cold in like in November, and we went out there with chairs and everything. But like, that was about 11 years ago. So I wanted to ask you how that experience can kind of be like replicated now with like how everything is, one with the new era of like this pandemic, two, this digital age, and like really just the culture of today's youth, because I was in high school when that happened, right? And so like I had a lot of energy going out there doing like just like being out all night just to get in line and stuff. And what's your train of thought and I guess like foresight and observation and how everything is like, and how can we kind of like emulate something like that for brands now?
That is always at the forefront of my mind in terms of brand building. This book is really the takeaway message of this is not a t-shirt. You know, people think it is the story of my life and the story of how we built the hundreds, but the takeaway message is that we really wouldn't be here without our community. And that brands can be platforms for people to come together and to connect. And so it's more dire than ever, especially these days in a time when people feel most disconnected, physically disconnected because we have to distance. And I think just theoretically disconnected in terms of our ideologies. You know, we are living in this actually pretty remarkable time where everyone is coming to their own belief systems, right? Like throughout history, pretty much everyone adhered to like subscribe to a major religion, or they just kind of like were sheep and followed along to whatever you were supposed to do, you know? And just with the proliferation of the internet and the way that information is now disseminated, everyone is figuring out their own ways of how the world works and what is best for everybody. And so that's a really cool and awesome thing, but it also, due to our self-righteousness perhaps, or due to our selfishness, it also has divided a lot of people and put up a lot of walls where people think like, oh, if you don't believe exactly what I believe, then you must be bad. And so we are physically disconnected, we are theoretically disconnected, spiritually disconnected from each other. And so I think brands are as important as ever in terms of being able to align humans, get them to communicate. And that's why I love graphic t-shirts, because it's always a conversation starter. It's like, you always have that like uncle who's just like, what's that bomb on your shirt all about? And you're just like, well, uncle, it's this. And so you can have this really cool conversation. So t-shirts are great for that. Streetwear is kind of built for this. And so I think one way we decided to counter that last year was to have a food festival. We said everyone likes to come together around food. Since the beginning of time, food has brought people together for Thanksgiving, for business meetings, for dates. So why don't we throw a food festival, get the best food in the city? And it worked. We brought together so many different kinds of people, all centered around food, and a lot of great relationships were built from that event. We can't throw a food festival this year. And we can't have a lot of meetups. We can't throw concerts. We were throwing like shows and parties and just any way for people to physically be together. And so we worked on the Hundreds TV. You know, Andrew, who's in the room, who's our producer, was instrumental in doing that. Some of the other people, Justin, Beth, I talked about earlier, but some people from our team put together the Hundreds TV. This is a place for our community to connect digitally. It is not ideal, but it's what we have right now. And then me doing things like this, just digital meetups where I can talk to you, Raymond. Like I actually got to meet you today, right? Like we actually share a conversation. So I just, you know, I don't look at it like I don't need 1,000 people. I don't need like to impress 10,000 people. I just need one person at a time. I've always looked at it like that. Raymond, this time with you and I together is like more than I need in order to feel like the work that we're doing here is of value and of substance. And so I'm just trying to use any technological tool I have at the moment, whether it's a TikTok, whether it's the Hundreds TV, whether it's a Zoom, anything in order to start like bringing these relationships together. And hopefully, you know, we get to a point where we have a vaccine or we have some kind of solution. I can get back out into the world and we can build physical communities again, and we will get there. But for now, we are actually very blessed to live in a time where we have the internet. You know, as shitty and horrible as everything is right now, as far as pandemics go, this is probably one of the better pandemics to live through, considering we have internet, we are able to relate to each other in this way. And so I'm just glad that, you know, like at least we have this. And so I will use it.
Thank you. And yeah. I mean, like, you know, just to kind of segue to the next question, it like that actually answers a little bit about it. And also even some of your answers with Austin earlier about pivoting into his brand, his new concept of a brand. For me, like 4 years ago, I started a creative agency in New York. It was a community focused production agency, basically. Yeah. So we're actually the guys behind like the sneaker course with FIT and
awesome.
the streetwear course with Parsons. And
yes, yeah.
So like behind the scenes, we were those guys telling stories professionally.
Yeah.
But now that we've come into this new age, have decided to kind of like go from like service to be in service and have something for everyone, and to kind of, we've always like served other communities, but now we want to kind of build our own community together. And like, I wanted to kind of ask your advice, because I've been like actually getting samples this month, like putting products together from like, you know, creating media to now products to pushing products.
Wow.
And like, I wanted to see what that track would look like. And if you had any advice for someone that's kind of like venturing into something new, but kind of still like, you've been there, I live it, I breathe it, but now I'm going to walk it. I'm going to push it, you know? And like our company's called Push Stories. So that's who we are.
Yeah. Your story is very special, and I don't want to, again, like degrade or, you know, devalue anything you're saying. It's also a story I'm hearing more and more, where people are realizing that they have established these communities because they do inspiring work. They create work out there that is bringing people together. And then these people are saying, hey, we want to identify with this brand, with this person. We really want to profess to the world that we're down with this, that it's something that's really resonates with me. And so can you make some merchandise? And then so these people are trying to make merchandise, and their Instagram followings are growing. And then they're like, hold on, I have a brand. Yes. Like, this is really the future, the next 10 years of what brand building is going to look like. It's not going to come from necessarily people like me who were like intentionally going into fashion saying, I want to build a clothing company. These are people who are just like doing amazing work, drawing an audience, and then saying, hey, while I have the audience, why don't we eat shit, sleep, and wear this stuff? And so it's awesome. You know, like, I think just take it slowly, you know,
Mhm.
there's an entirely different paradigm now as far as clothing and fashion goes. Like there is no more sticking to some kind of a seasonal schedule, or you have to sell to XYZ stores, or you got to go to trade shows. All those rules are broken. In fact, everything is broken. And so you get to dictate how it goes. The only thing I would say is that if you want this brand to be around in the long run, you have to, everything needs to be deliberate, thought through, take things very slowly, and don't rush, and also don't get frustrated when things don't happen right away. So that's how we did it from the beginning. And we were fortunate enough to start our brand in a time where there was no social media, internet was very early. And so we were never in a rush, Ben and I. We were not competing with anybody. There were really only a few brands in our entire industry. We were really doing it for fun, and everything was so meticulous in how we did it. I would work on a t-shirt graphic for a week at a time, and now we do them in like 10 minutes. You know, but a week's worth of just sitting and thinking and reworking it, and then putting the shirt on, just one shirt, and then 5 shirts. And so I would say just take your time, listen to your audience, listen to community, what they want. You know, you got to think about what you want for this. And look, these days, these brands, they explode, some of them like a hockey stick. It just happens very fast. And so the hardship is not in developing a really successful brand or growing an audience. You already know how to do that. The hard part now is in managing really rapid success. And for most brands that take off, it happens too much, too fast, and they buckle. It's too much. They can't fulfill the production numbers associated with it. And so that's a whole different level of problem that you may see. And so again, like day by day, like, isn't that what we're all trying to do throughout this entire thing? Also is day by day, hour by hour, like really we're just trying to make the next best decision, right? That's all you're required to do in life right now. Just make the next best decision for you and for your business and for your life. And so one step at a time.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks, Raymond.
Thanks, Raymond. We're going to Christopher next.
Christopher, hey, Bobby. On. Where are you?
I am in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay, there you are. All right. Christopher, I see your name pop up a lot, and I recognize your face from maybe your avatar or something, but I feel like we're already friends. Uh-oh, did Christopher freeze, or did I freeze?
Yeah.
Oh, Christopher.
Am I there?
You're back. I was just saying that I feel like we're friends because I see your name pop up a lot, and I appreciate you supporting for a long time.
Yeah. I met you when you did the talk at Seattle for the Posse.
Yes.
That was like the first time I met you in person.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. And so the advice that you gave me was so helpful. It kind of got me out of the mindset of like chasing numbers and more about like community and like how can I help people with what I do versus like, you know, just the numbers aspect.
Yes.
To like the book has been so helpful.
Awesome.
For sure. Just like what you talked about earlier, being like the child of immigrants, I resonated with that so much. Just myself as being like the first son of like 2 people who moved here from a different country. And just what you were talking about earlier about like the feelings and the emotions that kind of come with that. Plus the book tour was so helpful getting to like know different people who like the work that they were doing. So like you would do a tour in LA and then you'd have like Alex Gervaisi come in there and it's like, oh, who's that? Like, and then I get to know their work. It's like, oh, that's amazing. So my big thing is right now with the pandemic happening, there, like as a photographer, things have been pretty quiet just because you can't really go outside. The most I've done is photograph like healthcare workers like Mark and covering their story, kind of like helping get that out there of what they're doing and what they're sacrificing behind the scenes. But my question is, I've been trying to work with a brand that I met last year at ComplexCon.
Okay.
That you recently did a collab with. And the way that it worked was like, I was talking with them, we got along very well, and then it went quiet. And so it's like, at one point, do you just let it go and move on to the next thing if you try to reach out a couple different ways?
Yeah. So they left you on red.
After like, I want to say 2 emails, it was like, introduction after ComplexCon, and then we did okay, and then it hit me back. We're like, yeah, we love your work. We would love to work with you. I'm like,
yeah,
cool. Sent another email to reply, and then nothing.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that happened. That's frustrating when it does. I go through that all week long. In terms of not hearing back from opportunities, people reaching out. We've had collaborations and projects, special projects that have fallen through at the 11th hour after working on them for years. And it's all due to someone just stops replying altogether. And it never feels good. That also happens in life, in relationships and stuff like that, which I'm sure some of you can attest to, and it's never a good feeling. So I think, Christopher, you need to be valued for your work. I feel like you do great work. And if someone doesn't see the value in it and they're not pursuing you the way that you are pursuing them, it's not an equal and equitable relationship. I don't think it's really worth your time, to be honest, and it's their loss. And so I would just let it go and move on to the next thing. Like, you put in your effort to salvage whatever connection there was there. But if for whatever reason that person or that brand or company felt like it just wasn't right for them anymore, or maybe they changed their mind or something else came up, you have no control over that. But what you can control is the integrity of your work and your offerings, and you're knowing that they need you more than you need them. Like, you really have to look at a lot of your work like that they need you more than you need them always. And so I would probably give it a few tries and then just move on. Look, this is a business of rejection, and you're going to get told no, you're going to get slam dunked and blocked and swatted many times throughout your career. It happens a lot. There's a lot of ego bruising that happens in this industry and in this world. And it's probably because a lot of the people affiliated and involved in it are not the most sensitive, emotionally intelligent types to understand that they are pretty uncouth and abrasive in terms of how they approach a lot of working relationships. We're not a very professional industry. Most of us are kind of like rough around the edges, square pegs. We didn't really fit in anywhere else. And so we don't even really know that we're being rude a lot of the time, and how we deal with our relationships, and especially in business, it's kind of rough. And so just take it, you got to take it on the chin, and you got to move on. Sometimes it'll come back around. And sometimes when it comes back around, you've moved past it. And, it's all in timing. I've had people that have kind of led me on a project, fell through, hurt my feelings, 10 years later, came back and banging on my door. And sometimes I say, no, like, sorry, that time came and went. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? It was about timing. Like, it's ready for, you're ready now. Well, I'm ready still. Let's do it. And it actually made for a better project. You never know what's going on the other side of that wall with whoever that is that you're waiting for an email from. Sometimes those people don't even work at the company anymore. Sometimes their companies are falling apart. Sometimes there's so many things. And so I guess my takeaway from this all is, don't take it personal. It's business. It happens. And you can never assume what's going on in their head. And the things that they're dealing with, whatever came up in their lives. You did your best to salvage it. If it doesn't work or you don't hear back, move on. You have much more bigger fish to fry.
Cool. That is super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay cool out there. Is it hot in Oklahoma?
It is burning. I'm in Seattle right now because it was cooler up there, but it's like 100. It's been like 100 for the past like 3 or 4 days of like rainstorms in the middle of it.
I was going to say too, for people who've never been to Oklahoma, because my family's actually from Sulphur. I don't know if you know where Sulphur is in Oklahoma.
Haven't been there yet.
Oklahoma is like the humidity there is on another level, right? Like as I'm talking to you, I feel like it's getting hotter in the room.
I'm originally from Maryland, and it's like it's like Baltimore, like that.
I was born in Baltimore.
In the summer.
Yes.
Yeah, but like this is like something different. Like it gets like Baltimore in August.
Yeah.
It feels like Baltimore in August, like as soon as it hits May 1st.
Oh my God.
I've been here for a year, and it's just like that until October.
Wow. Well, stay cool out there. I'm sure it's hot in many parts of the country, but it's not Oklahoma hot, humid. So thanks, Chris. Do we have any more questions, Andrew?
We got 2 real quick ones from the Hundreds TV chat.
Sure.
We're all good to go. First is from Michael, wants to know, would you ever collaborate with Tyler, the Creator?
Yeah, hell yeah, Michael. If Tyler would ever be down, I've watched Tyler grow up. Tyler, as everyone knows, is a local LA kid, really grew up on Fairfax. If you look at we used to throw block parties every Labor Day. And if you look at, there's photos from then, there's teenage young Tyler in like a BBC tank top, hanging out. So like he was always a part of the block. I remember when I really started noticing this guy, I mean, it's hard not to notice him. They used to run the Reserve shop, which was the fresh drive store down the block from on Fairfax. And I just remember his energy and his charisma. And I was honestly like scared of this kid. I was just like, there's so much life and energy and creativity coming from him. And these kids that were growing up on Fairfax, that they're a force to be reckoned with. Did I ever think that Tyler would be as famous and as notable as he is today in a mainstream sense? No, because I never thought that anyone from our world, from Fairfax, from streetwear, like none of us were even supposed to make it this far. So, like I could have never predicted what happened to Frank and all the OF kids and Knockel used to skate, in front of our shop every day. And now he's like one of the best skaters in the world. So I would love to, Oh,
we lost.
Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay, let me grab, I think that, everyone hold tight, I'm still alive. The camera just turned off.
Your laptop, I think.
The camera shut off. Yeah. I think everyone, hold on, it's gonna be okay. I think the battery either ran out or, did the battery run out? Okay, can I switch it back to this camera here through my FaceTime HD camera?
No, you go to preferences. Yeah, FaceTime HD camera.
I'm back. Okay, so now we know how to do that. I'm back when I'm not high definition, I'm low definition now. So to answer your question, yes, would love to work with Tyler, just to bring the story full circle. Friend of our companies, friend of us, and still very much a part of street culture. And I don't know, I could speak on and on about Tyler and his influence. So I'll stop it there.
Thank you, Michael, for the question. Last one for.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Forgot to put these in. Sorry, go ahead, Duke.
Last question for today comes from Rocking Pots. It's a question about a collab. He said he found out you did with a Malaysian brand called Pestle Mortar Clothing.
Pestle and Mortar out in Malaysia.
Yeah, he said he couldn't find anything about it on the blog, so he just wanted to know more about it.
Yeah, that was with our friends Pestle and Mortar out in Southeast Asia. And I don't know much else to speak on it outside of the fact that we have this really vibrant community out there. For whatever reason, in Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia. We're super strong. And I think from what I've understood over the years, it's because that region of the world, the streetwear that they really love and appreciate is like real core streetwear. They kind of never got onto the fashion streetwear thing. So they're very much aware of like Off-White and Fear of God and that generation of streetwear designers, but they're like all about like tried and true, like actual core culture streetwear brands. Many of them from our generation aren't around anymore. And so I guess we represent that era and that generation to that demographic. And so we've always appreciated that part of the world. If you're watching from that part of the world, I was supposed to be there touring throughout the spring and into the summer. And we're trying to reschedule it for next year. So it will happen again, but obviously COVID derailed a lot of our plans. So I will finally get to meet you. Everyone's always hitting me up saying, when are you going to come and visit, Jakarta or, different parts of Kuala Lumpur or whatever. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be there. I'm coming. So that's it for today. Thanks to everyone in the room for your questions, you guys, and to everyone else watching at home on the Hundreds TV. Again, every Monday, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, I'll be doing this. I may be bringing in more guests, so just kind of pay attention to my Twitter, my Instagram. I kind of throw out like a little line and say, hey, I'm going live. If anyone wants to join, I just want a few people in the room, just have an intimate conversation. Tomorrow we have Greatest Hits, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, same place, tv.thehundreds.com. Justin is going to be hosting. I might guest and drop in for a bit, but John from John Hundreds will also be in there, Ben's brother, and we'll be going through vintage stuff, and you'll be able to buy it. And that's about it. Buy the paperback if you haven't already. Tell a friend. Follow me everywhere, Bobby Hundreds. Everyone in the room, please connect with each other, trade information, and we'll see you guys all again soon. Have a good week.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.